Azerbaijani art has developed over the ancient history of Azerbaijan and Iranian Azerbaijan. The Azerbaijanis have created a rich and distinctive culture, a major part of which is decorative and applied art. This form of art, rooted in hoary antiquity, is represented by a wide range of handicrafts, such as chasing, jeweler, engraving in metal, carving in wood, stone and bone, carpet making, lazing, pattern weaving and printing, knitting and embroidery. Each of these types of decorative art, evidence of the and endowments of the Azerbaijan nation, is very much in favor here. Many interesting facts pertaining to the development of arts and crafts in Azerbaijan were reported by numerous merchants, travelers and diplomats who had visited these places at different times. Prehistoric art images reflecting magic, totemic notions of ancient people, the religious customs and hunting scenes saved on rocks in Gobust, and evidence about primitive art in the Paleolithic epoch. Men and women, fishing scenes, images of people dancing on the rocks, galloping horses, hunters, lonely figure of a reaper with a sickle, round dances of people reminding of Jali, boats with rowers, solar signs and various wild animals had been portrayed there. Gamagaya petroglyphs in the territory of Ordubad Rayon are dated back to the 4th–1 stone centuries BC. About 1500, dislodged and carved rock paintings with images of deer, goats, bulls, dogs, snakes, birds, fantastic beings and also people, carriages and various symbols had been found out on basalt rocks. Antiquity. Findings of ceramic items belonging to Caucasian Albanian culture were found out during archaeological excavations have various shapes, perfect forms and fine ornaments. Varieties of painted ornamental and semantic motifs are typical for ceramic items found out in different oblasts of Azerbaijan, such as Shartikti and Gizilvang. A large vessel found out in Shartikti village and black glossed zoomorphic vessels found out in Mingachavir. Of the most famous patterns of ceramic items of Azerbaijan, a unique Rhyton cup with a figure of deer with branchy antlers on it is the most interesting find. A figure of two-headed deer from burials of Dolanla village, bronze figures of birds from Chavda village, gold adorning and also Rhyton with deer head from Mingachavir had been found out. Foundations of columns had been found out in different rayons of Azerbaijan, mainly from Nakhchivan and Gabala, and details of plant images had been painted on stone foundations found out in Gazik rayon and belonged to the 4th–3rd centuries BC. Cave dwellings of Zangilan, Gonagkend and Shamaki rayons, rocky shelters of Gazik rayon, surf and cyclopean constructions of uplands of Lesser Caucasus and Nakhchivan found out by archaeologists are also very interesting. Middle Ages. Development of old and appearance of new cities favored development of caravan trade and expansion of handicraft production. Many cities famed for rug weaving, production of artistic ceramic jars, gold and silver items, patterns of engravings and sculptures were broadly spread in visual arts in the period of Caucasian Albania's existence. A stone cap of the 5th–6th centuries found out in Sudagilan settlement of Mingachavir rayon were one of the most famous findings of that time. Her cup found out in Batiam village and dated from the 2nd–4th centuries is kept in the Moscow Museum of History. Seizure of Caucasian Albania by Arabs in the 7th century was of great importance in further development of visual arts. Muslim, Iranian and Arabic cultures began to spread in the territory of modern Azerbaijan. Construction of mosques, mausoleums, castles and other cultic architectural monuments was followed by the decoration with various patterns and ornaments, calligraphic elements, tile and bas-reliefs. Restriction of images of alive beings by Islam stimulated development of ornamental forms of decorative arts. Ornaments on Momini Khan mausoleum in Nakhchivan. constructed in the epoch of the Seljuk Atabek reign and Karnaga on the shore of the Pirsat River, are interesting monuments of that time. Set of small states appeared in the territory of Azerbaijan after weakening of Arab Caliphate. Local art schools were opened in cities such as Barda, Shamaki, Beylagan, Ganja, Nakhchivan and Shabrin. Architectural schools of Nakhchivan, Shirvan Absaron and Tabriz are the most important among them. Monuments and constructions of Nakhchivan school are distinguished for the ceramic details, which initially were one-colored, but then became multicolored. Ornamental motifs generally consisted of baked brick and tile. Smooth stone walls with plastics, which were rarely used in architectural elements, belong to Shirvan Absaron architectural school. Patterns of stone carving art, geometric and plant ornaments take an important place in buildings belonging to this architectural school. Artistic value of the Vankana from Palace of the Shirvanshahs ensemble are determined by perfection of the composition, tectonics of architectural forms, virtuosity of painting and creation of ornaments, according to L. Bretetsinski and B. Wayman. Stones with inscriptions and images of people and animals had been found out in the Shirvanshah's architectural monument called Sabail Castle, constructed in the 13th century in Baku Bay. They had been made in deep carving style and had characteristics of frieze. This monument is a pattern of sculptural art where inscriptions and salient images was a decisive factor in decorative design of buildings. Cultural traditions of ancient Caucasian Albania are saved in reliefs of the stones. Bile stones, which had characteristics of frieze work, consisted of decorative elements. Grand architectural monument located on land at the time. Ceramic items found out during archaeological excavations in Shabran and Beylagan evidence about the high-level development of visual arts in the Middle Ages. 15th century. Azerbaijani rugs. Azerbaijani rugs are a product of Azerbaijan, an ancient center of carpet weaving. Azerbaijan has been since the ancient times known as a center of a large variety of crafts. The archaeological dig on the territory of Azerbaijan testifies to the well-developed agriculture, stock raising, metalworking, pottery and ceramics, and last but not least carpet weaving that date as far back as to the 2nd millennium BC. Development of carpet weaving boosted after Ismail I's takeover of Safavid dynasty. Azerbaijani carpets can be categorized under several large groups and a multitude of subgroups. The true scientific research of the Azerbaijani carpet is connected with the name of Latif Karimov, a prominent scientist and artist. It was his classification that related the four large groups of carpets with the four geographical zones of Azerbaijan, i.e. Guba, Shirvan, Ganja, Kazakh, Karabakh and Tabriz. The Karabakh carpet is one of 5 major regional groups of carpets made in Azerbaijan named after the Karabakh region, which comprises present Nagorno-Karabakh and adjacent lowland territories. The Karabakh carpets amount to 33 compositions. Due to the specifics of the local sheep wool, the Karabakh carpets are characterized by thick bile, high and fluffy. These carpets are marked for the vivid and joyous colors. They are divided into 4 groups, without medallions, with medallions, namazlik and subject carpet. In the mountainous part of Karabakh the carpets were made in Malibili, Muradkanli, Dashbalak, Jebrail, Goradis and many other villages. In 2010, art of Azerbaijani carpet weaving in Azerbaijan was added to the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. 17th to 18th century. Tabriz School of Miniature Painting. Persian miniature painting was developing in the territory of Azerbaijan in the Middle Ages. Manuscripts with miniature paintings of people, animals and landscapes in them were popular at the time. Yours of poetic works by Ferdowsi, Nizami, Sadi, Hafiz, Jami, Navoy, Amir Khusrau Dehyawi and others took an important place in creativity of Persian miniature artists. In the middle of the 15th century, a new style, Turkmen style, of miniature spread in the territories of Karakoyanlu and Akukwayanlu states was developed. Such miniatures of this style were made in Tabriz and other cities located in the territory of modern Azerbaijan. Shamaki, the capital of the Shirvanshah's government, was one of them. Traces of this now ancient style created by artists worked in workshops of Rashid ad-Din in the beginning of the 14th century can be observed in miniatures created by Abdul Baghi Bakuvi, Baku artist of the 15th century. Illustrations for Anthology of the Eastern Poetry, or Anthology of Shamaki, of 1468 and saved in British Museum in London of the best miniatures, created by artist of Shamaki and Baku. One-figured and two-figured portraits painted by Abdul Baghi Bakuvi and saved in Topkapi Museum in Istanbul belong to miniature art of Baku. Influence of Far Eastern painting can be felt in creativity of many miniature artists of that time. Wars between Turkey and Iran and also feudal wrangles among Khanates adversely affected development of visual arts in 17th–18th centuries. The colorful masterpieces of visual arts had been continuing created, and the palace of Shaki Khans built by architect Khad Ali Zenlabdan from Shiraz in 1797, is one of these masterpieces. These decorative paintings created by masters such as Abbasgulu, Usda Gambar Garabaghi, Aligulus Gurban Ali, Shukar and others were created with bright and motley colors. Images of people and animals, and also battle and hunting scenes were painted on the walls of the palace. Monumental constructions generally was suffering a decline. In the 18 wall paintings, which mainly consisted of compositions of plant motifs, appeared in houses of wealthy townsmen. National arts created ornaments for guns and jars. A copy of jar and gun found out in Lafage has highly artistic ornaments. 19th to early 20th centuries. Decorative art from the 19th century to early 20th century. Several artists of decorative arts who hadn't got artistic education famed. Mirmoz and Nawab, who hadn't any artistic education and also famed as a poet, music theorist and calligraphist, was among the most famous artists of that time. Ornaments created by him were important in art sphere. Ornamental wall paintings, images of flowers and birds, illustrations to his own manuscripts, 1864, are typical of his creativity. Usda Gambar Garabaghi used national traditions of wall painting. He famed for his works in restoration of the palace of Shaki Khans, paintings and interiors of houses of Memandarov and Rustamov in Shusha and other cities. Paintings made by him didn't break flatness of walls, but emphasized its architectural details. His new works distinguished for growth of realistic features, landscapes, images of flowers and patterns of decorative applied art made by poet Khurshid Banu Natavin should also be noted. She also decorated her poems with lyric art motifs. Artists such as Hafiz Ali Mughanli, Mirza Ali Guluz, Najaf Gulu Shamakili and others were famed among Azerbaijani miniature painters of that time. Easel painting. New progressive visual arts of Azerbaijan faced a delay in development in the 19th century. Development of realistic easel painting was extremely low. Origination of easel painting in Azerbaijani visual arts began in this period, but works of that period such as portraits painted in Yerevan were still firmly connected to traditions of the Eastern miniature of Middle Ages. A painter Mirza Ghadim, who also hadn't got professional artistic education, mainly famed as a portrait artist, dancer, dervish, strongman, and cavalryman, are his most popular works. His works are saved in National Art Museum of Azerbaijan. Portrait of a young man, portrait of a sitting woman and others are among these works. Yerevan, whose works were firmly connected to traditions of the Eastern miniature of medieval ages, laid down the foundations of the realistic easel painting in Azerbaijan. Paintings in Sardar's palace in Yerevan and also portraits of Fath Ali Shah, Abbas Mirza, Martalat Khanim, and Vajula Mirza are among famous works of Mirza Ghadim. Beside these portraits he also painted a portrait of unknown warrior. The palace was demolished in 1914 and 4 great portraits on the walls of the palace and also paintings on the walls of houses in Shusha were also erased. Timur's portrait by Mirmoza Nawab, painted with watercolors in 1902 and now saved in National Art Museum of Azerbaijan in Baku, is also famous. Genres of satiric graphics were appeared with publishing of Molla Nasruddin magazine in the beginning of the 20th century and development of book publishing. Artists of the magazine such as O. Schemling, I. Rotter, A. Azamzad and K. Musayev actively worked in this sphere of arts. Azim Azamzad is a founder of satiric graphics of Azerbaijan. His sharp caricatures and grotesque scoffing at social inequality, ignorance, fanaticism and oppression by Tsarism are also famous. His series of watercolor paintings called 100 Types, dedicated to freedom of women, atheism and political motifs, and also illustrations to Mirza Alakbar Sabir's Hofapname collection of works are famous. Baraz Kangli is the first Azerbaijani artist who got incomplete professional education. Being one of the founders of realistic easel arts of Azerbaijan, created landscapes such as Elanli Mountain under the moonlight, Before the Dawn, and Spring. He also created portraits of unfortunate people in refugees, series and everyday life compositions, matchmaking, and wedding. His album, Memory of Nakhchivan, consisting of 20 landscapes, is saved in National Art Museum of Azerbaijan. Kangli drew outlines of costumes for Dead Men, Hajigara, Perijat, and other plays staged in Nakhchivan in 1910. 20th century. Azerbaijan Democratic Republic. Independence Museum of Azerbaijan, where national attributes of Azerbaijan, the state coat of arms and flag were created, was founded in Baku. In 1919, after establishment of Azerbaijan Democratic Republic, meetings dedicated to protection and restoration of historical monuments were held in the museum. At the time, Fuyuzat magazine was issued by Ali Behouzinzad, the eminent philosopher, journalist and artist of that time and founder of oil painting arts in Azerbaijan. Bibi Haybat Mosque and The Portrait of Sheikh al-Islam are his famous works. Soviet Azerbaijan. New type of arts was forming in Azerbaijan after establishment of the Soviet regime in Azerbaijan. In 1920, the first art school where new genres of visual arts were created was opened in 1920 in Baku. In 1930s, artists such as Azim Azamzad, Fahad Khalilov, H. Kaligov, I. Akhandov, A. Hajiyev, M. A. Vlasov, K. Kazimzad, A. Mamedov and others worked in the sphere of graphics. Illustrations to books of Azerbaijani and foreign writers were made. Placards to actual themes of that time were also made. In 1928, the first art exhibition of Azerbaijani Union of Young Artists was held. In 1930s, exhibition of Azerbaijani Union of Revolutionary Visual Arts achieved a great success. In 1932, the Committee of Azerbaijani Artists was created. In that period, works such as Grape Harvesting by S. Sharifzad Azim Azamzade's Portrait by Chagverdiyev and Portrait of Nizami Ganjavi by Ghazan Fakhaligov were famous. Works by Mikhail Abdullayev, B. Mirzazad, B. Aliyeva, Sattar Balulzad and K. Kandlarova should also be mentioned. The first Congress of Azerbaijani artists was held in 1940. Generally, political placards and satiric caricatures were made during World War II. Well-known artists as H. Kaligov, I. Akandov, A. Hajiyev and S. Sharifzad were authors of such politic placards. Maturity stage in Azerbaijani visual arts began in the mid-1950s. Mikhail Abdullayev, Tahir Salahov, Vidadi Narimanbekov, Sattar Balulzad, Togril Narimanbekov, Gizar Kashiyeva and others were famous artists of the Soviet Azerbaijan in the second half of the 20th century. Tahir Salahov credited for pioneering a version of severe realism, more truthful to the grim realities of workers' lives than the bright certainties of socialist realism. B. Aliyev, I. Faisalov, A. Mamedov, A. Verdiyev and others portrayed subjects of labor and industry in the works. But the works of Elbizargliyev, T. Sadizad, Arif Husinov, K. Najafzad and others are dedicated to historic past, traditions and customs of Azerbaijani people, to war and peace. J. Mirjavadova, N. Ramanova, K. Amadova, G. Yunusova, S. Faisova, A. Ibrahimova, I. Mamedova, S. Mirzazad, F. Hashimova, F. Gulimova, A. Samadova and others painted mythological images. Maril Ramansad was the first Azerbaijani woman artist who got professional artistic education, achieved a great success in the sphere of easel painting and book illustration. 21st century. Independent Azerbaijan after dissolution of the Soviet Union. Organizations such as YARAT created to nurture an understanding of contemporary art in Azerbaijan and to creating a platform for Azerbaijani art, both nationally and internationally. Maiden Tower International Art Festival has been organized since 2010 with the view of the global promotion of the Maiden Tower in Old City of Baku, included in UNESCO's World Heritage List in 2000 and considered the symbol of Baku. In 2012, Azerbaijan staged the 012 Baku Public Art Festival, country's first modern art festival. As of 2000s, fine art photography became popular in Azerbaijan, with names such as Rina Effendi hosting exhibitions in London and New York. Azerbaijani and Western Art Museums of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan Carpet Museum, Azim Azamzade's House Museum, Baraz Kangali's House Museum, Baku Museum of Miniature Books, Baku Museum of Modern Art, Gobustan National Park, National Art Museum of Azerbaijan, Nakhchivan Open Air Museum, Sattar Balulzade's House Museum,